Chair. I'm speaking today as a resident of Wiltshire, as a mother, and as someone who has lived through stalking by a stranger. This was not a relationship issue or a domestic situation. It was targeted, persistent behaviour from someone I had never met, and it changed every part of my daily life. I'm here now because I'm working with Wiltshire Police, a specialist charity, and the Home Office as a consultant to review the failings in my case and to help shape better support for people who are going through something similar. My aim is not to look backwards in anger, but to use my experience to improve the system for others. That is the only reason I am standing here today. Stalking is often described as unwanted contact, but that language doesn't capture the reality. It is fear, intrusion, and the loss of safety in places you should feel safe. It forces you to change routines, how you move through your community, and sometimes how you parent. For me, it meant living in a constant state of fight or flight for more than 15 months. For 15 months, every weekday morning, I dropped my then 7-year-old daughter at Breakfast Club, and I genuinely did not know if that would be the last time I saw her. That is what stranger stalking does. Wiltshire Police recorded over 5,000 stalking and harassment offences last year. Within that, hundreds were recorded as stalking. What we don't yet see in the public data is how many of those involve stranger stalking. But national evidence shows it is a significant proportion and often the highest risk category. Stranger stalking is frequently underreported, hard to recognise, and harder for victims to get support for. That is why having a clear place for specialist support matters. My case highlighted gaps that are not unique to Wiltshire. They exist nationally: delays in recognising patterns, inconsistent risk assessments, and missed opportunities for early intervention. These gaps matter because stalking escalates. It rarely stops on its own, and when people do come forward, they need to be believed, protected, and supported quickly. Clare's Law is an incredible safeguard for people in intimate relationships. Because my case did not involve a relationship, I was never told whether he had done this before or not. That gap matters. I also want to highlight that the offence, stalking without fear, is still used in charging decisions. In reality, stalking always involves fear, disruption, and loss of safety. This offence does not reflect lived experience, and many of us believe it should be reviewed or abolished. The Crown Prosecution Service also has a part to play. In my own case, I had to fight to have an incorrect charge overturned, and no victim should have to do that. And aftercare is just as important. Once the immediate risk ends, support often ends too. In my own case, I had no aftercare at all, and that gap matters. I also want to say that I don't like the word victim. It doesn't reflect the strength it takes to survive stalking or to fight for the right charge to be applied. Whether we use the word victim or survivor, we must be believed. When we speak up, we are not always believed. That doubt delays protection, it silences people, and it causes further harm. This is why whole system commitment matters. Violence against women and girls is not an abstract policy area. It is a lived reality for thousands of women and girls in Wiltshire. And while men and boys can absolutely be victims and must be supported, the patterns of harm that women and girls experience are especially severe. This is what this motion recognises. Violence against women and girls is not a political issue. It doesn't belong to the left, the right, or the centre. It is cross-party, and it requires cross-party commitment, not just on stalking, but on all violence against women and girls, including domestic abuse. Everybody has a part to play in stopping violence: men, women, boys and girls. This is a whole community responsibility. This could happen to anyone at any time. Nobody is immune to this. I also want to be clear that this is not about being anti-man, nor is it suggesting that all men are responsible for violence. Men and boys can absolutely experience violence and abuse, and they must be supported. My focus today is simply on the specific pattern of harm that women and girls face, which this motion seeks to address. Wiltshire already has strong foundations: the Domestic Abuse Local Partnership Board, the Violence Against Women and Girls Board, commission services, safe accommodation, and survivor engagement. I've seen firsthand that there are committed people working incredibly hard. But strong foundations do not remove the need for continued action. They create the platform for it. A full council motion sends a message that this is not just a policing issue and not just a charity issue, it's a whole system responsibility. It is about prevention, early intervention, education, and challenging the attitudes and behaviour that allows violence and abuse to continue. It also matters to survivors that councillors stand publicly behind this agenda. It tells us that our experiences are not invisible. It tells us that the harm we live through is recognised, and it tells us that the system is committed to doing better. I am proud to be contributing to improvements locally and nationally through reviewing my own case and helping shape better support for people experiencing violence and abuse. But no survivor should have to become a consultant in order to be heard. The system should work before harm escalates, not after. Support this motion because safety should never depend on luck, persistence, or who shouts the loudest. It should be guaranteed, and together you can make that happen. Actions speak louder than words. Thank you.